The Pride of Jaisalmer. In the famous region of Jaisalmer, India, there once lived a man named Rajendra Singh. He was considered the richest man in the entire area. His possessions included treasures of gold and silver, countless camels, vast farmlands, and magnificent mansions. Among them stood a splendid palace whose golden carvings shimmered under the sun. People called it the House of Gold. Rajendra Singh was immensely proud of his wealth. Arrogance radiated from his every gesture. He looked down upon the poor and often said, "Poor people are responsible for their own fate. I owe them nothing." Yet, in one corner of his heart, a soft spot still existed: his daughter, Dipali. Dipali was his only child, raised in luxury but blessed with a kind and compassionate soul. She would often help the servants, feed hungry children, and give clothes to poor women. Rajendra disliked this behavior. One day, he scolded her angrily, "Dipali, you are the honor of my family. You should not spend your time with people of such low status." Dipali smiled gently and replied, "Father, perhaps God gave us wealth so that we could help others." These words struck Rajendra like a thunderbolt, but he said nothing. His love for his daughter was so deep that he could not argue with her. One day, a fierce sandstorm swept across the golden land of Jaisalmer. The sky turned yellow, and the powerful wind blurred everything in sight. Trees were uprooted, huts collapsed, and people were left without food or water. Rajendra Singh's palace, however, stood firm, its tall walls protecting everything inside. As Dipali gazed out of the window, she saw chaos everywhere: people crying for help, children weeping from hunger. Her heart trembled with pain. She ran to her father and pleaded, "Father, people outside are suffering. We must help them." Rajendra replied coldly, "Dipali, I am not their guardian. Every person shapes their own destiny." Dipali said nothing more. But that night, while her father slept, she quietly gathered food, water, and clothes with the help of a few servants. She stepped out into the raging storm. Through the harsh winds, she reached the villagers, feeding the hungry, tending to the wounded, and comforting the helpless. When she returned at dawn, her face was covered in dust, but her eyes shone with peace. When Rajendra found out, he was furious. "I forbade you from going out. Why did you disobey me?" Dipali spoke softly, "Father, if being rich means turning away from the pain of others, then I do not wish to be rich." Rajendra was left speechless. For the first time, her words echoed deeply within him. Months passed, and another calamity struck Jaisalmer: a terrible drought. The rains stopped, crops withered, and the wells ran dry. The poor began leaving their homes in search of survival. Even Rajendra's palace could not escape misfortune. The stores of food and water dwindled, and his servants deserted him. The man who once walked with his head held high now sat alone in his grand but empty halls. One night, he heard a knock at the door. When he opened it, a group of poor villagers stood outside, the same people he had once looked down upon. But they had not come to ask for help. An old woman stepped forward and said, "Dipali gave us food during the storm. We've come today to repay her kindness." They brought sacks of grain and pots of water. They took Rajendra and Dipali to their village and gave them shelter. Tears streamed down Rajendra Singh's face. For the first time, he understood, it is not wealth that saves a person, it is humanity. Time passed. The rains returned, the lands turned green again, and life blossomed once more. But Rajendra Singh was no longer the same man. He sold part of his remaining property and used the money to build a school and a hospital. Every day, he visited the place, speaking to children, tending to the sick, and helping those in need. One day, Dipali asked, "Father, are you proud of your wealth now?" Rajendra smiled and replied, "No, my child. I am not proud of my wealth anymore. I am proud of my humanity. I no longer possess gold or silver. I possess the wealth of hearts." Tears of joy filled Dipali's eyes. That day, the sun spread its golden light over Jaisalmer, but this time, it wasn't shining on the palace walls. It was shining inside Rajendra Singh's heart. From that day on, the people of Jaisalmer would say, "Once, Rajendra Singh was proud of his wealth, but now, he is proud of his kindness."